So what I argued, last week was that Christians need to be natural leaders. We need to lead. We are called by Jesus to be salt and light in our communities, in our world, in our culture. That means we need to get out there and do things. We need to do some good. That means we need to join groups, a group or groups. Nonprofits, get out there and get involved. Now, what some Christian theologians have argued is that we shouldn't do that because a lot of nonprofits, if they're not Christian in nature, God doesn't get the glory. Now, I understand that argument, and I'm actually sympathetic to that argument. But I think we need to get involved, and we just need to be loud and clear about why we're doing it. That we are doing it as a response to the gospel of Jesus Christ. Because we have been saved by grace, and our King has commanded us to be salt and light, that's what we go and do out in the community. Make sense? Believe it or not, it's actually good for you. People who retire and then volunteer with an organization live 2 times longer than those who don't. Did you know that? Amazing, isn't it? And there's science behind this. You are actually people who volunteer for organizations, nonprofits, get out there and do good. They are happier. And studies have found that doing good in the community actually releases dopamine. That's the chemical that makes you happy. It's the same chemical released, ladies especially sympathize this, when you eat chocolate. Doing good is like eating chocolate. You like chocolate, right? I mean, you're not a member of ISIS, you like chocolate. You're an American, so yeah, you like chocolate. Get out there and do good. It's like eating chocolate. But in order to do a really good job, as we talked last week, you need to find something to do that you're really passionate about. Something you're really passionate. Really search your heart and ask yourself, okay, where does my passion lie? Is it with food insecurity? We have a big problem in this county with what's called food insecurity. That's people who aren't getting 3 meals a day, kids who aren't getting 3 meals a day. Is it about helping veterans? Stan was talking to me yesterday about, young veterans are not joining veterans groups like the Legion, the VFW, so they're not joining like they should, and they really should. Now, that goes back to, Stan, I would say that one of the things you need that you can help with is that generational IQ thing, because they think differently. Generations think differently. So in order to reach out to them effectively, you have to, for example, if they're millennials, if they're young, so if they're some kid who's just coming back from Afghanistan, 22, 24 years old, and you want to reach that kid, you're going to have to explain to them why they need to join. They don't just assume they should. You have to explain why. And I think you can do that because they do a lot of good. But you have to explain to them why. With us, with people like my age, the Generation X, we're a cynical bunch, and we like to keep a very tight-knit, small group of folks around us that we hand pick, which means you need to go out and find people like myself to go out and recruit others. And that's the way you do that. But you need to find that passion. Mentoring kids, fighting sex trafficking, which is my wife's passion. Right? She loves International Justice Mission, the Christian legal group that goes out there and fights the sex trafficking, which, by the way, there's more of that going on than you ever know, even in this area. There's a lot of that going on. Okay, so once you find that group or groups that you're passionate about, then you need to help lead those groups in the name of Jesus Christ. And the way you can do this well is, one, you need to network. You need to network with people who are also passionate, and thanks to, I know that social media can be both a blessing and a curse, but one of the blessings is that you can network with people around the world that you're passionate about. I have been able to connect with people because of my blog, and I'm going to actually say that if you're really passionate about something, you should consider actually blogging about it. Set up a blog. They're free. You can set up a blog for free and write about it and share it with everybody on Facebook and Twitter, all that kind of stuff. And you can connect with people this way. I've established a network of Christian leaders simply because of my blog and my online presence. So Frank Turk, Christian apologist, is coming to Christ Community Church next week, which, by the way, we've got little flyers. You pick up those flyers and invite somebody to church next week to come hear Frank. He does a great job. It will not go over your head. He's not that kind of guy. He's a down-to-earth kind of guy. He's a guy who co-wrote I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist. And so he'll be here next week. You need to invite people. But Frank and I connected online first. J. Warner Wallace and I connected online. And so I've connected with these people online, and then I've been able to connect other people to those people online. And when you do that, when you're a connector, then you build credibility and you build trust. So get online, do all that kind of stuff. I know you can get pushback. When I started blogging on apologetic issues, I started to get atheist trolls left and right. And you just have to learn to block. You just have to learn to block people. You try to talk to them, but then if they just start insulting you, it's like, block, because you don't want to shoot back. You'll be tempted to. You will be tempted to. I've had that. My very first encounter with this was when I was a pastor in upstate New York, and I was pastoring a little church. Every church in upstate New York is a little church. There's hardly any Christians in upstate New York anymore. But I had this little church in upstate New York, and right off the hill where Cornell University is. And the pastor before me had been fired. And he had started another church. And he started his own blog. This is back in like 2002, 2003, when I was like, what's a blog? And so he started a blog, and he had somehow come across something I had said, and he challenged me to a debate, and I just ignored it. And he challenged me to a debate, and I just ignored it. And one day he put on his blog, I have asked Pastor Matt, to talk to me about this, and I have heard nary a word. And I thought to myself, look at my computer, here's a word, idiot. But I merely thought the thought and did not say it aloud till now. So you'll just have to let those things go. And if you're going to be one of those connectors, Tim Sanders wrote a book called Love is the Killer App, and it all boils down to this. The book is I don't like the way it's written. It's a little too hipsterish for me, but the content is good. And he says that success when you're doing this, you have to follow these rules. 1, gain knowledge. You have to become an expert in that area you're passionate about. You need to read as much as you can, talk to as many people as you can. Whatever you're doing, be an expert. Be an expert. Gain that knowledge and then share that knowledge. Don't hog it all to yourself. You share that knowledge, not in a condescending way, but in a helpful way. And one of the ways you can do that, especially if you're volunteering for an organization and you're not the leader of that organization, but you know the leader of that organization, to just come up and start lecturing him or her about what they need to be doing differently is not going to work. But what you can do is hand them a book. You read a book on the subject, you thought it was really good. Hey, would you like that? And just hand it to them. Give it to them. Give it to them. And then show compassion. Especially, again, if you're not the leader but you know the leader. Leaders are typically lonely people. They do not have a lot of close friends. This is true of ministry too. One of the hardest things about being a minister is you don't really have friends because everyone you know looks at you as their minister first and foremost. And that's tough. It's very, very, very tough. So show compassion. Let them know that you're praying for them. Remember their birthdays, all that kind of stuff. Show compassion. If they're going through a tough time, the organization's going through a tough time, let them know that you're there for them. A connector connects people with shared passions, and they ask nothing in return. Don't ask anything in return. The moment you ask for something in return, you've shown them that you're really there for yourself, not for them. And you just need to be there for them. So again, as I said last week, because there's going to be a lot of overlap in some of these classes, but I connected Cedric Pierman, who was here. You remember, if you were here when he was here, did a great job. He wants to be a pastor when he retires from football. And be praying for Cedric because he's still recovering from his injury. He was injured in a preseason game, a couple breaks in his forearm. And he'll be back. And I'm connecting Cedric with some leaders, Christian leaders, that I think would like to get to know him and give him a platform and help him in ministry. I don't get anything out of that. I don't want anything out of that. I just want to connect, and you should do the same thing. Be an encourager. Always be an encourager. Christians too often are seen as people who are always, everything's wrong with the world. Oh, the world's going to blankety blank in a handbasket kind of thing. That we're those kind of people. Don't be that person. Nobody wants to be around that person. Nobody wants to be around that person. I've had people actually come to me and say, when I've asked them, how you're inviting people to church, I don't even know any people who aren't Christians. I'm sitting there thinking, I think I know why. They don't want to know you. Be an encourager. Try to be positive. Watch your criticism. Here's the deal. We tend to criticize in others what we don't like about ourselves. This is that whole thing Jesus said about dealing with that plank in your own eye before you deal with the speck in somebody else's. We tend to criticize in others what we don't like in ourselves. And so you need to watch yourself. That's that whole emotional intelligence thing, going back and seeing yourself objectively. And for goodness sakes, get a sense of humor. Too many Christians have no sense of humor whatsoever. You need to be able to laugh and laugh at yourself. It's amazing how many people, I used to just, I'm snarky anyway, and I used to drop all kinds of jokes and snarky stuff on Twitter and stuff like that. I don't do it that much anymore because so many people get mad. I said on Facebook one time, this is a joke. I said, I just woke up one morning, it popped in my head. I said, I wonder if, children born of C-section sometimes have the desire to go out the window instead of the door. And I got comments like, my children are born, how dare you? I'm like, oh my gosh, give me a break. I got attacked once. I said, why are there so many running magazines? How many articles can there be about left, right, left, right, left, right? And I got attacked by that too. I'm a runner, how dare you? I'm like, what in the world? It's a joke. And these were all Christians. Get a sense of humor. The healthiest people, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and all those are tied up together, have a sense of humor and can laugh at themselves. There you go. I got an amen from George there. Laugh. You need to be able to laugh. Have a sense of humor. Leading from the second chair. This is where you're in an organization, you're trying to become a leader in that organization, trying to help that organization, but you're not at the top of that organization. So what do? Leading from the second chair is this paradox. So you're trying to get there. And so how do you do that? Here's how you do that. One, you are publicly loyal to the leadership. Don't be that person who's constantly complaining about the boss. And then, with that loyalty, what you do is you also help that leader cast the vision for that organization. And if they can't cast that vision, you need to help them come up with that vision. Last week we did what? Start with why. You start with why. Why do you do what you do? What sets you apart? What is unique? What are you doing? What is your vision statement? And that vision statement needs to be clear, concise, and portable. By that I mean easy to carry around. And you need to help the leader cast that vision constantly. You need to make sure that everybody else in that organization understands why we do what we do, how we're doing it, how to get it done. Help the leadership do that. That's how you get that that trust from the leadership, and then you get their attention, not just their time. People will give you time without their attention. You've seen that? People will sit there and talk to you, and you realize that they're singing a song in their head or something. They're not paying attention to anything you're saying. Every married man knows that feeling, right? Right? You've been married, you've had those conversations where you might as well be talking to the wall. And so you want their attention. Loyalty and helping them cast that vision, helping the leader cast that vision throughout the organization will help you get attention from the leadership, not just their time. Questions so far? Okay. Let's jump into this. Again, cast that vision to the group, and you can do that. And you can do that online too. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the other kind of stuff. And I know some of you are like, I'm never getting a Facebook account, I'm never getting an Instagram account, I'm never getting a Twitter account. My father swears Facebook is the worst thing ever, except that he owns stock in it. I hear him badmouth Facebook all the time. It's like, yeah, Dad, how's that stock doing, huh? Cast that vision out there all the time. Honor the leadership. Here's how you can honor the leadership. Behind closed doors, ask them if you can push back on anything, and if so, how. You need to ask permission to bring up any kind of constructive criticism. And sometimes they're just going to say no. They won't say no, but they'll basically say no. They'll let you know that no. Like if they say, oh, of course, I've got an open door policy, and then they avoid you for the next 6 months, that means no. And so the way you do that again is sometimes just hand them a book, link to a podcast, a blog, whatever. But you need to ask permission to do that. You need to ask for permission. You cannot just assume that you can do that. Nope. not that way. It's not easier to ask for forgiveness and permission when it comes to this. No, George, it doesn't. You just think it does. Be a raving fan in public in order to have the influence to be a private critic. If you're going to have any influence, any way to get the attention of the leadership to help change anything or help cast that vision, set that vision, you need to be a raving fan in public. I can tell you this, that if you come up and you tell my dad or Rick or me, I don't like this, I don't like that, we need to be doing this, whatever with the church, and I know for a fact that you're out there bad-mouthing, and I know that you don't tithe or anything, you know what that criticism is going to mean to me? Zero. Nada, nothing. Now, I know that you're out there and you're just, Christ Community Church, great, you got to come check it out, come on, and inviting people left and right, and you're giving and you're volunteering, and you come to me and say, you know what, Matt, I think we ought to do this. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to listen. I'm going to listen. If I know that you're invested in the organization, I know that you're a raving fan of the organization, that buys influence with the leadership to help change things when they have to change. Get to know the organization really, really well. Get to know how everything works at the organization. If for nothing else, if you don't know how something works, you won't know how to fix it when it breaks. Make sense? Get to know how things work. So here at Christ Community Church, you should learn to know, let's say that you're volunteering with the children's ministry. God bless you. You're volunteering with the children's ministry. You should get to know how they check in on the computers, on the kiosk. Where they go, where the ages go, what's going on back, what are they doing? Why is it that we always insist, if you think about this, to be real clear, people just don't think about it. Why do we always insist that with our children we always have 2 adults in the room? Yeah, see, you're automatically nodding. You never thought about it, though, before, have you? But there's a process there. There's a reason why, if I'm not preaching, I'm back in this hallway or back out there watching the doors. Because a quick search will tell you there are more than a dozen registered sex offenders within a mile of this church. And so I always make sure that the back doors are locked so that nobody can get to our kids unless they have a tag or their security. And if you volunteer, you should know all those things and know why. You need to help the organization reach what Glenn Jackson of Jackson Spalding, and Jackson Spalding is one of the biggest marketing consulting firms in the country. They handle Chick-fil-A, Coca-Cola, all that kind of stuff, at Home Depot, I believe. And so what they've done is they put together, said every organization needs to reach what they call the 7 pillars of preeminence. The 7 pillars of preeminence. And I stole this directly from an interview he did. It was a fascinating 2-part interview. And he defined preeminence this way. Preeminence is extraordinary excellence that once reached and sustained creates a competitive advantage. In other words, what he's saying is, you know you've reached preeminence when all the other organizations that do what you do start copying you. When they start copying what you're doing something right. You've reached that level of excellence. People come up to Dad all the time. Do you know such and such a church is doing this? After you invited Cedric Pyramid, they had a football player down there. So? That says we're doing something right. The other churches are copying us. We're doing something right. That's okay. That's okay. So you want to find that organization and you want to help them get to that level of excellence and sustain that level of excellence, no matter what it is. Here are the seven pillars of preeminence. Number one, trust. Nothing is faster than the speed of trust. Trust is essential in any business. Nonprofit, for-profit, doesn't matter. Trust. And what is trust? How do you get to trust? Trust is a combination of two things, your character and your competency. And those do not necessarily go hand in hand. There are people who can get stuff done. You can argue that Bill Clinton was a very effective president, but you wouldn't let your teenage daughter hang out with him. He may have been competent, but his character was a little questionable. But then you had a guy like Jimmy Carter, who has the highest character, but had a hard time struggled as president. You need to have the combination of both character and competency. You're a person of character, you're a person of your word, and you get stuff done. You get stuff done, and you do it well. And that's what you have to help an organization do. Once you help your organization get that kind of trust, everything gets better. Because you're no longer, you're not competing anymore in the marketplace, because if people trust you, they won't go out and get different bids or whatever. They'll just go right to you because they trust you. Again, talk about what last week we had loyalty. We talked about loyalty. People have been lining up to spend hundreds of dollars to buy an iPhone for years because Apple has created that trust, that loyalty. The guys are all leaving. The guys are leaving right now because they're just singing this morning, so they're getting ready to go practice. The men's choir this morning. We're going to have like 50 odd guys up on stage. Not me. They asked. I said, "You don't understand what you're asking." I remember once I was driving my nephews. My sister Luann's nephews, and I had the radio on, I was singing, and my eldest nephew, John, raised his hand and says, "Uncle Matt, please stop." Oh, man. Number two, relationship building. Good organizations have good relationships with other organizations. One of the things I learned when I was at ADF was that there are all these Christian legal ministries out there. There's Liberty, there's ACLJ. One of the things that our CEO and board did right was that we set up a committee that distributed funds. We put aside a certain amount of money to give and to cases outside of our organization, and we had members of those other Christian organizations join that committee. So we had people from Liberty, ACLJ, all that kind of stuff on a committee with people from ADF deciding how to spend the money we had set aside to do certain cases. Well, that builds good relationships. And you need to have those relationships, especially if you're in a nonprofit, your donors. Everybody in any nonprofit, I don't care if you're helping answer the phones. If you're working at a nonprofit, everybody's in donor relations. Everybody. It is absolutely essential how you answer the phone, how you talk to people, how you interact with people makes a big, big difference. And just have those relationships. When I was raising money for ADF, one of the things I always did was I knew all of my donors' birthdays, anniversaries, the anniversaries of funerals if they had lost a loved one. I knew all that kind of stuff, sending them cards. If I had one in the hospital, I'd fly or drive to go see them. I would do all that kind of stuff. One of the persons who was really good at this was my dad. My dad, most people don't know this. Most people just, assume that mom and dad, just made a lot of money off the church, I guess, but they actually don't hardly anything out of the church. Dad and mom were both in business for decades. Dad, at one point, when he was doing international work as a consultant in the steel industry, he would study all day on Saturday, preach Sunday morning, teach a Bible study Sunday night, drive to Columbus, get on an airplane, fly to South Korea, Mexico, Turkey, India, wherever, do his consulting gig, fly back on Friday, wake up Saturday, study, preach on Sunday, teach Sunday, get back in his car, drive to Columbus, fly to wherever, and he did that for 20-odd years. And that's how he made his money. And he was so good at that because people trusted him. He had at one point where he had a client in Middletown, and he had a client there that the purchasing agent of the steel plant said, hey, I don't want you staying in a hotel anymore, you just stay with me. What do you think happened to his competition when they found out that he was staying at the home of the purchasing agent? They just quit coming around. He had a monopoly. They weren't even pitching to him. He had it all. And it was because he built those relationships, because he always kept his word, and he got things done quickly, which builds trust. And he maintained that relationship, maintained those relationships. He still has those relationships. He's been out of that for 16 years. He still knows all those guys, talks to them. So 4 characteristics of good relationship builders. Here's what they do. They connect with people. And if you're an introvert, if you're just not good at that small talk stuff, think about it, learn to have those back pocket questions. Hey, where are you from? That's easy. What's your area known for? Now, people from Portsmouth might say crime and clowns, but anyway, still, that's an interesting conversation if you're not from Portsmouth. Clowns, yeah. Invest in people. This goes back to just help people without expecting anything in return. Personalize with people. Know who that person is. Be able to read that person. If that person's an introvert, you're going to have to do most of the talking. If it's an extrovert, you're going to struggle a little bit, because if they just talk faster than you think, you're just going to have to deal with that. Show them some love. And that means you really have to observe people. You have to be a people watcher. You have to get to know people. What makes them tick? Pillar number 3, marketing communication. How an organization communicates creates what they call a brand bank account. What is a brand? A brand is basically anything an organization says or does. Anything an organization says or does creates their brand. And perception is reality when it comes to that stuff. Whether it's Christ Community Church, whether it's the business you work for, whether it's a nonprofit, whatever, whether it's you. How people perceive you is your brand. And at the end of the day, I believe that at the core of a healthy brand is making and keeping promises. I believe, I don't care if it's sales, I don't care what it is, but making the promises you make and the promises you keep, I believe at the end of the day are really what create your brand, how people see you and your organization. So that means brand ambassadors understand that everything they say is heard, everything they do is seen, and that they represent the brand through what they say and do. So this comes down to the church too. I don't know how many times I had somebody say just again a week ago. I invited them to church. They said, there's some people there who don't like me. And I said, you tell me who they are, and I'll go to them and tell them that they need to invite you to sit with them. Because that nonsense doesn't need to happen in a church. I had one person tell me, he said, well, your church, I remember when I was a lounge singer and I was singing on Saturday night and I'd see those same people going to church on Sunday morning. I said, well, where do you want to see them go? I don't care if they're hungover. Hungover people need to hear the gospel too. This whole idea that, you've got to have your act together before you even come to Christ is ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. And so what you guys need to help do is, out there in the communities, you need to break down that perception that the church is a country club for the saints instead of an emergency room for sinners. Because that's what it is. That's what it is. Assessment. Assessment, assessment, assessment. You always must take time to ask key questions about your organization to make sure it is moving forward the right way and keep looking for a better way. This happens at churches all the time. One of the things that kills churches is, one of the things that happens in church mentality is church people love things to be the same every week. I don't know why. It bores me to tears. Yes. We need to sing 3 songs, have communion, have our break. Sermon needs to be 35 minutes and 34 seconds, and then we need to, it's like, oh, give me a break. Come on. Yeah, it's just that there's always a better, more creative way to do things. Always. And you always should be looking for those. And here are like 7 key assessment questions leaders should ask, all right? Number 1, what do we need to anticipate? Number 2, what do we need to fix? This is a way to help destroy silos too. Number 3, what do we need to improve? Where can we innovate more effectively? How and where can we give back? How am I and you growing as a leader? And what is the wise thing to do? These are all questions. Now, for example, if I'm helping an organization, I was asked by a business leader, a couple business leaders this week, to help them with their organization. One of the first things I look for is silos. If departments are butting heads with each other, not working together as a team, one of the ways you knock that crap off is you get all the department heads together and you begin asking all these questions together and you get a consensus. Then you set objectives together and you begin every single meeting of those department leaders with that. That comes first. That comes first. If you get all the different department heads working on what's called a thematic goal, you knock all that nonsense off. And it happens all the time. It happens in churches too. Happens in churches too. And it's just, you get in really big churches, you have the youth ministry, the children's ministry, we want to do this, we want to do that, and they're butting heads all the time for resources, competing for resources, and you need to help knock that stuff off, because if you're not working together as a team, you're not doing well. I don't care what you're selling, I don't care how well you're selling, you're not doing well. Eventually it's going to catch up with you. The cultural torch of servant leadership. Servant leadership. The best leaders are servants. You think about the Last Supper. Who was the most powerful man in the room at the Last Supper? The answer is always Jesus, right? We're in church. The answer is always Jesus. And yet, what does he do? Washes their feet. That's the job of a slave. He's the most powerful man in the room, and he washes their feet. You think about it. Jesus is king. He is king of the universe. He leaves his throne to be tortured and died for us. And a servant is not above his master. Be a servant leader. Do things for people. And when you do that, when you become a servant leader, you help change the culture of any organization. And culture is a big deal. Culture is just, have you ever been in an organization and you walk in and automatically you're like drained? You're tired? That's because there's a bad culture there. There's a toxic culture there. And you need to help break that down by being a servant leader. And it doesn't matter. If you've got a bad culture, I don't care how many strategy meetings, how many consultants you bring in, all the other kind of stuff. Culture will beat strategy every single time. You've got to create a healthy culture. And that means if you're a leader of an organization, you're helping the leader of an organization, and there's somebody in your organization that's just toxic, they need to go, and go quickly. Remember what I said? Long hellos, quick goodbyes. And you need to help them do that. Now, it's not fun to get rid of people. It's not fun. Anybody who thinks it's fun to say you're fired is a jerk. Pillar 6, fanatical focus. Be focused. Focus, focus, focus. One of the most important things you can do with your time, in ministry, in nonprofit work, is learn to say no. Keep your focus. Remember last week we talked about the hedgehog principle. A fox knows 1,000 different ways to fight. A hedgehog knows one. Curls up in a ball and you can't do anything about it. What is your organization's hedgehog principle? By the way, if you're a Christian, your hedgehog principle should be spreading the gospel, spreading the gospel, spreading the gospel. Go make disciples of all nations. That should be your fanatical focus. Opportunity does not equal obligation. You can overreach, you can do too much. And there's just a million examples of that, of organizations trying to do too much, and when they lost their focus, they lost their way. They lost their way. Resiliency. You got to have that perseverance. Resiliency is navigating the peaks and valleys of the marketplace around you and not being blown off course by the storms. You will have tough times. You will just have to deal with that. You will know there will be recessions. And recessions hurt everybody, including churches. Dad puts away money because he knows at some point there's going to be another recession, giving's going to go down, we're going to have to pay the bill, so he's put some money back for that because you've got to prepare for that. And you need to do that in your own lives. That's one of the reasons why I tell everybody, you need to learn to live on 80%. 10% you tithe, 10% you save, live off the 80%. That's the way to do that, because those times are going to come. You need to have that. Dave Ramsey has taught this for years. You need to have that emergency fund. You really need to have saved up about 6 months of salary. If you were to lose your job, you need to have that 6 months of salary set aside so that for 6 months you can live off that to find another job. And you should do that. You should teach that to your kids, your grandkids, help them with that. Because, and you know, let's face it, one of the reasons I'm teaching this class is I want you guys to go out there and try to make our area, community a better place. We got lots of problems. Now, we got a lot of good things going on too. We really do. I mean, you saw, it all broke this week that Dale King and Renee Wallace are going to be on Shark Tank with the Doc Spartan stuff down at PSKC. That's right. And so that's wonderful. That's fantastic. I want to see more and more of that kind of stuff in this area. More of that, less clowns. I just be honest. If people on Facebook don't know what I'm talking about, there was a clown down by the bridge at night holding an axe and just staring at people menacingly, I'd have run the guy over, to be honest with you. And then he tried to push himself into a friend of my sister-in-law's house. Actually knocked on the door. When she opened the door, he tried to push in with the axe. I put on Facebook, and I don't care. I know I'm a pastor, and I know I'm supposed to turn the other cheek. Some clown tries to push himself into my house, he's going to meet Mr. Glock and Mr. Mossberg is what he's going to meet. But we got some good things going on, and we need to help do that. And one of the things we need to understand is it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. We've seen a lot of job loss in this area. We're probably going to see more before it gets better, because one of the things that has to change is the culture. The culture in this area is often toxic, and it needs to change. It really needs to change. And that starts with you all going out there and being spiritual leaders. The more people we invite, I tell people all the time, we're a church of a little over 1,000 people. We need to be a church of over 2,000 people, not just because that makes us a mega church or gets us more money or whatever, because the more millennials we bring in, they don't give anything. You ask millennials to give, they tithe you lint out of their pocket. I mean, you're not getting nothing. But we need to be a church of 2,000 because the studies show that in order to truly impact your community and deal with the crime and the drugs and so forth, you need to have a church of about 10% of your population. So we're Portsmouth, this area, about 20,000 people. That means we need to have a church of 2,000 to really impact Portsmouth. Make sense? That's why we want that number. I don't care if 2,000, I don't care if there goes 3,000 or whatever. I don't care. I hope we grow, reach unchurched people. I hope other churches grow and reach unchurched people. I hope we all grow. You're preaching the gospel, I hope we all grow. But we've got to do that to impact. We've got to be inviting people to church, and we have to understand that we're in a rough patch here. We've been in a rough patch for a while, and it's probably going to continue for a while. And we're just going to have to push through it. We can't just be the woe is me gang. And we can't be the, oh, remember when the steel mill was open, remember when this and that, and that's past. Let's talk about the future. Let's talk about ending the drug wars here. Let's talk about getting the prostitutes off the street. Let's talk about cleaning things up. Let's talk about making people, parents especially, understand that they need to be actively involved in their kids' lives. that kind of thing. That's where we need to go, and we need to do that. Some things are changing, and this is when we're talking about the future, we need to understand a few things. Now, in some businesses, I understand you're going to have office hours. I get that. You're going to have to. If you're selling cars, you can't just say, I'll be there whenever. You got to be there. I understand you got to have office hours. But for a lot of industries and nonprofits, office hours are obsolete. They're absolutely obsolete. For ministry, they're obsolete. Nobody drops by this church building anymore between 8 and 5. Nobody, hardly anybody. UPS guy, that's about it. I mean, it just doesn't happen anymore. Because today, your office is your smartphone. Increasingly, your desk, your office is your smartphone. People don't call me anymore, they text me. They Facebook message me. It's a really weird thing. I never would have thought in seminary that I would do most of my counseling via Facebook message. But I do. And that's just the new reality. That's the way it is. And for a lot of nonprofits, you're going to get involved. Office hours are obsolete. I didn't have office hours at ADF. I just had goals. Here are your objectives. Go do it. I don't care if you work 4 hours a day, 40 hours a week, 100 hours a week. I don't care. Just get it done. And the way I interacted with most of my donors was my smartphone. And you're never off if you're doing nonprofit work, because they will always reach out to you. People don't sit there and go, oh, no, my husband's being rushed to the hospital. Well, but it's after 5, so I won't bother Pastor Matt. Said no one ever. You guys contact me whenever. Middle of the night, you guys are calling me. Oh, my life's falling apart. Well, I'm sleepy, but that's just the way it works. That's the new reality. For many organizations now, you may not even need an office. I mean, you think about it. What's the point of spending that money if nobody's dropping by? Doesn't make any sense. I personally, Tom Rainier, who is the head of Lifeway, he has actually counseled churches to stop requiring office hours for staff and instead require community participation from your staff. Join organizations in the community, join gyms, why? Because you're getting to know people, you're networking, you're bringing people in, and that's what you should be doing. I think you may be onto something. Again, help the leadership start with why. Remember, there's a reason why Apple does so well. And this applies for any organization. They start with why. Like I said last week, remember this is important. Simon Sinek put it this way: if Apple was like everyone else, they would say, we make great computers, they're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly, want to buy one. That's not what they say. What Apple says is, instead is, everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Oh, and we happen to make great computers, want to buy one. They sell the why. They sell the why. When I'm interacting with people and they're skeptical about the gospel, one of the things I start with is this: do you want to live a life that matters? It's the first question I ask. Do you want to live a life that matters? You only have so much time on this spinning orb that we call Earth. We only have so much time. We never know when it's going to end. And so if we're going to have lives that matter, I argue that means you need to know the gospel. You need to know that you're saved. You need to know that you have work to do here, but you have an eternity for a reward. That means that I'm telling you that if you come to faith in Jesus Christ and you help others come to faith in Jesus Christ, you can live a life that truly matters, and beyond that, one that will echo through eternity. Too many Christians go, you don't go to hell, do you? Too many people have come to faith because they're afraid of hell, not because they love God. They're buying fire insurance. And that's why you get nasty Christians. I guarantee you, if you've met a nasty, grumpy Christian, and you have, you get a nasty, grumpy Christian, it's because they were not saved to live a life that matters, to serve Jesus Christ. They were saved because they're just scared of going to hell. And what you're converted to is who you are. And you need to remember that. So when you're talking to people about Christian, you're talking about any organization. You need to start with the why. Why would you want to do this? It's not what you do, but why you do what you do that creates loyalty for any organization. It's that simple. And you have to ask yourself constantly, are you helping your business or organization get repeat customers or loyal customers? If you're volunteering for a nonprofit, you're volunteering for this church, you need to know the why so that you can share that with people when you bring them in. If you just tell people, oh, come to Christ Community Church because the music doesn't always suck, and the preachers are usually they're done on time, and and we've got popcorn and donuts and all other kind of stuff. That's not creating loyalty. You're just selling a product. It's manipulation. You're selling a product. You don't want to do that. You want to start with the why. You want to start with the gospel. Right? Loyalty to a nonprofit will produce more productive volunteers, more cash to accomplish the mission. That's why every nonprofit out there will tell you that they need more money and more people. I've never met one that go, oh, we're good. Not once. I've never seen any organization, I don't care if it's Wounded Warriors, ADF, whatever it is. Do you have enough money? No. They never have enough money. Never, ever. Christians need to lead nonprofits so that God does get the glory, not just well-meaning people getting the glory. I am glad that Bill Gates is giving all this money to Africa and all other kind of stuff, and that's wonderful. But what will truly echo through eternity are Christians doing good things in the name of Jesus Christ and being very loud that they are doing it in the name of Jesus Christ. Be very clear about that they're doing this for Jesus Christ in response to the gospel. Why are you volunteering all these hours? Why, dude? I'm a Christian. Jesus Christ died in my place for my sins. My life in response is one of thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. One of gratitude for what he has done for us. And understand again, I cannot stress this enough. Donors are the lifeblood of any organization. Givers are the lifeblood of any organization. And you need to help them, and you need to connect with them, invest in them. I don't care who you are, whether you're helping answer the phones or whether you're at the top. Always be looking.
Christ Community meets on Saturday at 5 p.m. and Sunday at 10:30 a.m. For more information, visit www.christcommunity.net or check out our Facebook page.